So here's the problem, guys. You know what I'm talking about. With this Decade that I did a review on, if you want to do vertical shots with the camera and it's hanging off the side this way, this plate isn't wide enough. It'll want to fall over. So let's try something. I've got this, I have a small ball head. I've got two larger ball heads that are dedicated to something else. But if I had the taller ball head on here and I had it moved all the way over, because this is almost all the way over, not quite, we see that this is just about touching this Nikon F5 with the 508 mirror reflex Nikkor that I used in my original video when I did the review, which I'll put a link to. If I let go of this, it's going to want to tip over. So I came up with an idea in which the way this would be used would be like this, and with a taller ball head, obviously, I would be able to go either side, all the way down, and not have this want to tip over, because I'm going to be making a stabilizer bar that goes perpendicular to the length of this Decade plate. Now, for those of you that have seen my original review that I did a couple weeks ago, you'll know that I did something a little bit different. I added two more back here, 3/8/16s. I'm going to keep the two up front, and then I had one back here for 3. And I put these in for the heck of it, but in use, if I need them, I can use them. Otherwise, I can just bring them up. Wrong way. Just bring them up. And what I much prefer to do is have 3, because this is more like a tripod. Okay, self-leveling. You don't have to worry about all 4. And but you still need to have that brace that I'm going to make here. But what I wanted to show was that even if you have 4 corners, this thing is not going to be stable for doing vertical shots. So that's why I put those on. Now, to cut my 1" by 1/4 inch thick aluminum stock, I'm going to use this battery operated power miter box. I've got an aluminum cutting blade in there. It's 7¼ inch. It's the easiest way for me to do it. You can use a hacksaw. You don't need anything fancy, and this stuff cuts very easy with just a regular hacksaw. So what I'm going to be using here is 1/4 inch thick by 1 inch wide aluminum stock, and I'm going to cut it 13 inches long. So to make this stabilizer, there was a couple considerations. That is, how long did we want it to extend out each side? So I just did a little measuring, and I figured that if I had about 4 inches sticking past each side, that would be sufficient. Next thing we needed to know is the center line to this 3/8 16 hole and 1/4 20 hole. What is the center line between that and that? And I also needed to know, is the center line from there to the edge the same as the center line from here to the edge? Checking with my calipers, just a cursory check showed that the center lines from the edge to the center was the same on both sides. Next, I needed to check again, as I said, the center line. So the question is, how do you do it? It's very simple. I'll show you guys just in case you ever run into this. It works on anything. So you're going to take your calipers, they don't need to be digital, and it doesn't matter what order you do this, I'm going to check the outside edge of each one of those holes. So I'm going to come across here, kind of hard doing this behind the camera, but you'll get the drift here. You're going to come behind here like this, get her set. See how I did that on both sides? Then you'll write down that dimension. Then you'll go to the inside of each of those holes like this, and you'll write down that dimension. So let's input those numbers. I had 3.80 plus 3.28 equals 7.08. We're going to take the combination of those two numbers. Next we divide that by 2. And we get 3.54. For all intent purposes, 3.5 inches. We're not building a church. So basically we've determined the center line that we need to know where to drill a hole. From there to there is 3.5 inches. So we've got our stock cut to 13 inches long, and I've taken masking tape and put it onto the surface, holding it off because it's 1 inch wide, holding it off one edge so I can run a square along it, and I made several marks. Here you're going to see CL. That's the center line of the 13 inches. So that's half of the 13 inch. Then I went half of the distance, which we determined to be 3.5 inches. So we go half that here, half that there. Here's where those two holes will be drilled. Then over here on the edge, we need 2 more holes for a 1/4-20 tap. These holes will be tapped. These holes will be through holes. This hole will be tapped, 1/4-20. So that is all laid out. Now the next thing I did, so there's no confusion as to what I'm drilling, I marked on the tape number 7 drill bit for a tap, number 7 drill bit for a tap, and then I want a 3/8 diameter hole here, 1/4 inch diameter hole there. And if you've seen any other videos when I do this kind of stuff, I put the masking tape on because once I drill or make my marks, I can pull it off and there's no pencil. And this is going to be the top side of the bar, like this. So that way the writing that's been on it here will be below. Next, what I need to do is at those 4 locations make a center point. So the first thing I'm going to use, this is how I do it in this aluminum, is I'm going to use a prick punch, which has a steeper angle, and you lightly tap the location. Then I'll follow that up with an actual center punch, which has more of a pronounced tip. It's a little heavier duty. This you can hit on. This you just tap it to make the indent, and then follow up with this. For all intent purposes, it's the same punch, other than the steeper angle on the prick punch. Here you can see what I'm talking about. Here's where I followed up after the prick punch with the center punch. Here's just with the prick punch. Center punch, center punch. So I just thought I'd show you what the difference is. Now I'm going to follow that up with a center punch. Then I'm going to go to the basement where my drill press is, and I'm going to drill these out on a drill press. You do not have to do that, but since I have a drill press, I'm going to use a drill press. And again, I have all my sizes labeled so I don't screw anything up. So here you see the piece drilled. Now I'm going to go ahead and peel off the tape. And you'll see how nice that is. Leaves no marks. Next thing I want to do is use this tool. It's called a router burr to deburr both sides of these holes. And you could use a file. I've got this tool. They're nice to have around the shop. You just simply follow it around like that. Gives a nice clean, takes any burr that was built up from the drilling. Just like that. Now I believe I neglected to say that the tapped hole I decided to put it 1/2 inch from the edge, 1/2 inch to the center line on each side for the 1/4 20 tapped hole. And the reason I'm using 1/4 20, you'll see when I'm done, is on the tool, or on the decade thing, I've got 1/4 inch or 3/8 16. Even if you have the 8mm, you could pull them out a little bit, but since I've got this kind of a setup with the acorn nuts, when I put this on, I want to have the 1/4 20s so that I can pull this out a little bit more and not have to have too much of this thread used up here, because this 1/4 inch is going to be sticking on the bottom like I have here. So that's why I wanted the smaller 1/4 20s. So here you see that I have both ends for the 1/4 20. They've been tapped. We're ready to go. Next I'm going to take some lacquer thinner, just clean this up, make sure there's no dirt on it. We're ready to assemble it. So here it is, guys. It's attached, and you'll see from below that here's your 3/8, here's your 1/4 20, and I used button head cap screws for these, stainless steel, 1/2 inch long. Both are 1/2 inch long, button head cap screws. And I just elected to use those. You could use a slotted screw, whatever you decided. I like these, they're a little bit neater. And for me, one thing I think I'm going to do here, next I have to just put my 1/4 20s in the ends, and that'll act then as the stabilizer when the camera's over here. It'll give it more footprint side to side. I think what I'm going to do is get another decade plate. I've got 2 larger ball heads. Both are dedicated for something. I'm going to buy a larger ball head. I'm going to keep the small ball head on here. I'm going to buy another decade plate, and I'll put this on the new decade plate with the larger ball head. That'll allow me, you know, a bigger one for a larger camera, and this would work fine. That way I won't have to pull this off all the time. I'll have one dedicated for horizontal, where I don't need to go side to side, and I'll have one if I need to do any kind of vertical shooting. Now if you're going to use the button heads that I recommended, or that I'm using, you're going to need 2 different Allen wrenches. You're going to need a 5/32 for the 1/4 20 button head, and you're going to need a 7/32 for the 3/8 button head. So guys, I've got the exact same camera setup that I did when I did the review of this decade plate. I've got my Nikon F5 with a Nikon 500 f8 mirror reflex Nikkor lens. And so what you'll see here is it's tipped. I can't go all the way. I could go more. I guess I can. And you'll see all that side weight. If it wasn't for this arm on the other side, it'd be tipping over. So I'm going to push down, and you'll see that I am using 4 bolts here. The 4, okay, and it's solid. You can see that it's solid. It's sitting on all 4. But I'm doing this to show you that even on 4, the weight on the side, and typically I'm going to use just 3, 2 in the front, 1 in the back. But now if we let go of it, it tips down. So now what we do is, in this particular case, we take and turn till it just touches. On both sides like that. And now we're stable all the way around. And you can imagine that if I had a larger ball head, I'd be able to tip this all the way in the vertical position. But as you can see, without this extension arm, it would be tipping over. Let's look at this from the front. Now, I've got, when I push this down, you'll see that it's even on all 4 sides, using all 4 of these bolts. We let go of it, it tips on its side. So now I push down on it, come over here till it hits, and come over here, do the same. Now we're stable. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do, like I said, is use this setup minus this arm for horizontal, get a larger ball head to get me up higher, and get another plate, put this on the new plate, and dedicate that strictly for vertical. That way I don't have to take these on and off.